Hi, morning guys, Jeff back again. First video I've done for about a month or so now. Not since I did my series of vlogs from my trip to Peru, which I hope everyone enjoyed them. I certainly had a lot of fun making them, so I hope you enjoyed them. So I come back today. I'm going to be revisiting a topic I've talked about before on this channel. It was one of the videos I've done for a small channel like me. It's probably the most popular video I've done. It's had an awful lot of views and so on, but that's not really the reason I'm revisiting it. I didn't really have any intention of revisiting this, but was sort of sent some links by people that were, contradicting what I was saying. Not just on the comment section and that, but also sort of other people, have been sent me stuff recently that, and I thought I needed to look at this a bit and address this. So the video was the one I did about Ken Ham's Ark Encounter. It's one called Noah's Ark is a Sinking Ship, and apparently it's the fault of atheists. Because when I made this, and this was about must have been a few months ago, maybe even a year ago that I made this video now. But it was at the time that it was being reported that the Ark Encounter in Williamstown, Kentucky, was not doing anywhere near as well as expected, and Ken Ham was kind of blaming atheists, for sort of sabotaging his project and all that garbage that he was coming out with. So the reason I'm revisiting it, I said I was sent a link that was kind of contradicting this a bit, and it was a big claim that that the Ark Encounter had over 1 million people would come to it, and it's like its first year, and it was going to do even better, and it was going to do even better in 2018. It's been open about a couple of years now, I'm guessing, this thing. So I was sent this article about this, and straight away a bit of a red flag went up for me about this. Although it was from a sort of reputable newspaper, it was from a guest contributor, and the guest contributor was none other than Ken Ham himself. So immediately my kind of bullshit radar was up there, because I kind of inclined to take anything this guy says with a grain of salt. It's very, I don't trust anything this guy says. Now, I did say in my previous video that I thought Ken Ham genuinely believed in the stuff he was preaching. He was a genuine believer in young earth creationism. I'm not entirely convinced now that that's the case, that I'm wondering whether he kind of knows that what he's saying is bullshit and it's just deceiving people because, hey, it's good for him. I don't know. I don't really know the answer. I'm starting to suspect that might be the case. I mean, Aaron Ra always, I think, was quite correct when he sort of talked about young earth creationists kind of falling into two categories, and that's those that are deceived and those that are the deceivers. There was ones who are deceived who sort of take it on faith that the Bible, that what people like Ken Ham are preaching to them, that the Bible is literally true, it's an accurate representation of history, which it can be absolutely demonstrated that it's not. There's so much out there debunking the Bible, especially the Noah's Ark fable. And again, I will recommend a series Aaron Ra did. Again, he did a whole series videos on his channel debunking the Noah's Ark myth. And by the time you get done, he's absolutely destroyed. If you had any belief in this going, and he just destroys this thing completely. So as he said, this, that, as Aaron said, that it kind of comes into two categories, and there have been, I've got to say, in the young earth creationist sort of movement, there have been a whole number of frauds over the years. I mean, talking about a couple, it's the bloke, I mean, he died quite a while ago now, but that bloke Ron Wyatt, and he was the guy, the amateur archaeologist who claimed he'd found Noah's Ark, the crucifixion site, the Ark of the Covenant, and all sorts of stuff. And he was basically exposed as being completely full of shit. And I will say, to their credit, even Answers in Genesis, which is Ken Ham's organization, kind of denounced Wyatt as a fraud, actually. And then, so, you know, there was him. Then there's my personal favourite charlatan in the young Earth creationist movement, Kent Hovind. I won't go too much into Hovind. I mean, he could be a topic for another video altogether if I ever decided to make another one about this subject. You know, it's not really what I do on here, but I do want to make a quick distinction before I go in, you know, back to what I was originally going to speak about. And there's a distinction between, like I said, you know, majority of religious people and younger, you know, I'm not really having a go at religious people. I'm having a go at young Earth creationism, which, you know, I think is asinine. I mean, the majority of religious people, I think, accept the age of the Earth. A lot of them now accept evolution. I mean, the most notably the Catholic Church, and you know, it's obviously Church of England. These people all sort of accept evolution. They might not accept it the same way that I do. They might believe that, you know, that it's guided, it's a guided form of evolution by God or something. But they do, on the whole, accept this. But obviously, young Earth creationists cannot accept this. They can't or won't accept this. So, you know, it's a you know, and what you got obviously in Kentucky with Ken Ham's thing is with this Ark Encounter and its creationist museum that he's also been running for a number of years, is you've got two absolute monuments to religious fundamentalism and pseudoscience. So, and yeah, it's the ideas he's promoting are bad. They're bad ideas. I mean, really, you know, I think Seth Andrews of the Thinking Atheist podcast says it quite well when he calls the Ark Encounter the world's largest paperweight. So, you know, you know, the replica of Noah's Ark, and I'm saying replica because I don't believe there was an original, quite frankly. But anyway, I want to get back to what I was talking about, and that is like Ken Ham's kind of claims on how successful this thing's been and so on. Now, is it possible that it's had over 1 million visitors? It is plausible. It is plausible, and it's definitely from. The problem that we got a lot of this is that Ken Ham's own figures and in the way it's his self-reported figures aren't very convincing, and his projected figures are quite interesting. When he was saying, you know, I mean, from what we can tell, that the more accurate figure in the first year is something like 800,000 visitors, which isn't bad. I'm not going to say that's not a bad thing, but I think a lot of that was initial curiosity. And then he reported like a 20% jump in attendance year over year, and that's like, and again, it's a self-reported thing. And I'm going to say the majority of the evidence of what I'm reading here that debunks this does come from the Friendly Atheist website from Hemet Meta. So people I know straight away creationists going to say, well, he's taking this from an atheist site, blah blah blah. You know, that's he is biased, blah blah blah. Okay, you can have that if you want, but Hemet Meta is getting his figures from a guy called Dan Phelps, who is a local paleontologist who has been periodically requesting records from the city of Williamstown to find out what the real figures are, so that we can either confirm or deny what Ken Ham's been saying. But we want to go quickly over Ken Ham's claims of how many visitors he said this thing was going to get, and it's really weird year on year what he's saying. In 2014 he was saying it was going to get 2 million people a year were going to come to this thing. With a year later, it's going to be 1.6 million people coming to this year. Then it's dropped to 1.4, 1.2, but he's saying this in a way like this is going to be great. It's yet his own figures, so it kind of like it's almost thinking that you're almost projecting in the sense that Ken Ham is, you know, even himself might have known that he was no way he was going to bring in the couple of the numbers that this thing was getting. So it is a bit weird what he's projecting and what he's saying are coming in. You know, and you have to take this with a grain of salt. Now, from figures we got from last year, and again, this is from this guy Dan Phelps, and from this sort of early sort of point when the Ark Encounter was kind of opening and so on. I mean, it is plausible that in the sort of summer months and so on, and I think when this thing initially opened, that there was a huge interest in this thing. I mean, there was a curiosity factor, and it, you know, it was, you know, said that perhaps in this time last year, July, that it was getting like 142,000 visitors. Which, hey, if he's getting that, then he would hit his targets, no problem. In August it drops a bit, September it spikes a little bit again in October, but it went sort of between 142 to 83,000. So I will say at that sort of rate, and this is the figures that Phelps has got. So at that rate, you'd think, wow, this thing's a real success. This is a real success. However, you start getting down a bit further on, the numbers drop quite considerably from, you know, November to December. At one point, dropping to just 13,000 in January. Now you can say, yes, I know that's not the tourist season and so on. And, you know, it did go up a little bit again in March. But the thing is, it's clearly he's not going to get these 2 million people that he said are going to come there every year. Now, to put this into some sort of context, just quickly before I wrap up, you know, the Tower of London gets official figures. It gets around 2 million visitors a year. Now, this is a big world famous attraction in London, which is a city of millions of people that has millions of tourists coming in and out year, you know, all times of the year in London. This thing's in Williamstown, Kentucky. I don't think is getting that many people coming in. Okay, you know, even if everyone in the blooming state of Kentucky's been to see this thing or something, people from it's the claims are dubious, to say the best here. And I think people need to take what Ken Ham's saying with a grain of salt, is what I'm going to say about this. I don't see how this thing could possibly last, because once the curiosity factor is gone, and I know Ken Ham, he's put out things like, oh, we're going to have these like great things like he's installing some zip wires there, which he thinks is going to be a fucking attraction coming. Come on, you know, it's not going to draw millions of people in, is it? You know, just goes on some bloody zip wire. It's really, yeah, I don't see how this thing can last, and I don't think it needs to last. Like I said, this thing is an absolute monument to bad ideas and pseudoscientific bullshit, and I think the sooner it dies, the better, quite frankly. And as I said before, and I covered this a little bit in my previous video, it's the shame is that there's been taxpayers in the state of Kentucky that have been ripped off by this fucking thing. Quite frankly, they've been ripped off by it. So that's the big problem, because he's used taxpayers' money to build this thing, and he, you know, that's a whole nother story in itself about what he's actually contributing and so on. And I could also make a whole nother video on Ken Ham's hiring practices there at the Ark Encounter, which are disgraceful as well. But I won't, because I'm running out of time on this video. So I shall just leave it there and say goodbye. Okay. See you guys later. All right. Salute.